Hey everyone, welcome to Encrypt Coding. Today we'll be doing string functions. This will be part 1 of a series in which we'll be talking about string functions in Java using the BlueJ IDE. Alright, so before we talk about what string functions are, we need to explain what a string is. A string is an object that represents a sequence or array of characters. So as you can see in this image over here, we have a string called S which points towards an array of characters hello. But of course, this is not what we do. We do not give an array of characters to string. Instead, we abstract away whatever this character array is and instead say hello within double quotes, mainly because it's easier to read and also easier to understand. So a string can be created using two primary methods. One would be to directly declare it using a string literal. Alternatively, we could use the new keyword. So first, of course, is the one which most people use. String S is equal to hello within double quotes and then end it with a semicolon. Of course, alternatively, if you wanted to convert an array of characters to a string, you need to use the new keyword. And what this new keyword does is create a new object. As you know, a string is an object. It creates a new object of a string using the character array. So of course, in this particular program, we have string S is equal to new string of C. And C is the name of our character array. So within it, it would be the same as just directly putting hello. Alternatively, we could also just use the new keyword, new string, in parentheses hello. String over here is, of course, the string object. Let's talk about the functions of a string class. The string functions are the functions which are contained within a package called java.lang, and this package contains a class string which has all the various functions in which we can manipulate, index, compare and convert a string from one to another. And since a string is an object, of course it has an associated class, and this class contains the various functions. So let's talk about the first category, string manipulation. So first we have two uppercase. One benefit of string functions is that instead of writing our own code and spending a lot of time trying to debug it, some other people have already provided a solution to a problem that most likely many people and programmers will face. So of course we have two uppercase, which, as the name suggests, converts a string to uppercase. So if I were to say it verbosely, it converts all the characters in the string to uppercase if, of course, the character is a letter. So what would be the format? The format would be string. Over here, the string is the name of the string. Dot to uppercase, open parentheses, close parentheses. So all this does is convert the string to uppercase and return it. I just like to say that in orange over here, the string represents, of course, the return type. So this returns a string, of course, all in uppercase. Next, we have two lowercase. It does exactly what two uppercase does, but instead it converts all the letters to lowercase. So all capital letters would be converted to lowercase and everything else would remain the same. And of course, in part 1, our final string manipulation function is substring. What does this do? It returns a new string that is a substring of the string. That's a little complicated to understand, so let me just simplify it. A substring is just a portion of a string. So if we have a string called hello world, the letters hello, of course, is a substring of the string. It's a substring, sub meaning a part. And if there are two different formats in which we can call this function substring. First, we could, of course, need to put the name of the string dot substring, and then we put the beginning index. Alternatively, if we want to also specify the end index, we put int, which is the data type, int begin index, comma, and we follow it with the comma and then put the ending index. However, this ending index is exclusive, meaning if you were to put index 4, for example, it would go from index 0 to index 3 instead of 4 because it's made that way. We can't really do anything about it. That's just how the expert programmers have programmed it. Alright, so before we move on to string indexing, I'd like to show it within BlueJ. Alright, so we have a class over here called manipulation. Let's just open it. Over here, we have two strings over here, string 1 and string 2. I'll just call it string 1. So before we show what exactly is going on there, we'll see what exactly how exactly we use these functions. So first, suppose we want to convert this entire string hello world, my name is Java, full stop, to uppercase. We just put the name of the string to uppercase. So just remember that when calling these functions, everything is case sensitive, meaning that if you accidentally put a U, suddenly it puts the red squiggly line, meaning you made a mistake and it won't compile. So let's compile that and see the result. There it is. Hello world, my name is Java, and that's in all caps. Okay. Now suppose we wanted to convert all these letters to lowercase. Well, all we do is you call the lowercase function. It's quite simple. One benefit of these two functions is that we don't need to use a for loop to convert each letter within the string directly to lowercase. It's a quick way of doing this, which is why these functions exist. But what if we wanted to take, for example, just hello world? We don't want this my name is Java, and we want to store it within string 2. Well, what do? We use the substring. So we of course put the name of the string that we want to take a substring of. Then we call the function, and within it we put the beginning index and the end index. So of course, if I were to count from 0, just remember, whenever we take an index, the starting index is always 0. And this is just a convention. 0, 1, 2, 3, 4. Space counts also as a character. So 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11. Wait, but where's the exclamation point? Well, as I told you previously, when calling the substring function, this end index is exclusive. So when we put the index 11, what it does is it goes from index 0, which is H capital, goes from HELLO space WORLD. But once it reaches index 11, it just does not it excludes the index 11, and so basically it only contains the substring from index 0 to index 10. So what do we do to alleviate this problem? We just add 1. And now if you were to run it, we get hello world with the exclamation point as well. Okay, so what if we wanted to just start from my name is Java and go all the way till the end of the string? Well, what we do is first we count we find out the index of this m. So we do 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 13. So this is the 13th index. Alright, and if we were to run it, we would get a desired result. My name is Java. Okay, so those are the 3 functions which we'll be talking about in this part, which manipulate a string. Okay, so now string indexing. .char at. What exactly does this do? Well, of course, you've seen in the scanner class, if you want to accept a single character, we use the scanner name .next .char at. So what exactly this char at does? What it does is return the character value at the specified index. So the return type is the character data type, and we put the index number within the string, and out of that we receive the index. We receive the character which is at that index. So this is over here the format, over here the string here. We need to put the name of the string. Next, the .length. This is one of the most useful string functions, mainly because it provides us the length of the string pretty quickly instead of using a for loop. In fact, using a for loop isn't even safe, because if we were to reach an index beyond the length of the string, it would we would receive a failure within the program. So of course the .length function, what it does is gives us the length directly rather than using a for loop or any other loop for that matter. And what it does, return the length of the string. Here is the format. String over here would be the name of the string. And we don't need any parameters, since we're just directly taking the length of the string. Alright, so now we'll talk about I'll show you this within BlueJ. Okay, so now we'll check this indexing class. We have over here, this is a message. So suppose we wanted to find out what is contained within the fifth index within this string. Just remember that the 0th index is actually the first one. So the 5th index would technically be the 6th one if we were to count from 1. So let's just print system.out.println, and we put the string name .char at, and then we put 5. Alright, so what happens if we do this? Let's just run it. Oh, we get the letter I. So of course if we were to count 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. So of course we get the letter I. It complies with what we received within the terminal. So of course this works perfectly fine. But what if I wanted to find out the length of the string without just counting again and again and again? And imagine if we had a really long string and we wanted to find out the length immediately. Well, what we do, str.length. And just remember, whenever we call a string function, always have the parentheses. Otherwise, the program will fail to compile. run it, and we get 51. So there are 51 characters within the string. Okay, so now let's move back to the PowerPoint. String comparison. Okay, now of course, if you wanted to compare one string to another string, generally if for primitive data types you would use the double equal to comparison. So instead, when we compare strings and want to check if they're equal to each other, we of course say the name of this first string dot equals then the name of the other string, and the return type is obviously boolean, because if it's equal to each other then of course true, if it's not equal to each other then it's false. Equals ignore case. Over here it checks if they're equal but ignores the case. So whether or not the letters are capital or small, we just directly we just don't care about that. We just want to find out whether they're equal to each other, and ignoring the case of the characters. Starts with. Well, it's quite simple. It literally tests if the string starts with a specific character. So of course, if we say string dot starts with, and it's not necessarily starting with a particular character, it could also be starting with a string of letters. But one thing about starts with is that alternatively we could offset the index value from which we search the string, in which we search this string over here. So we can offset it by 1, and instead of checking the 0th index, we check the first index. Ends with. Instead of doing what starts with does, it checks the ending of the string and returns whether that string ends with a particular substring. And of course, the return type is boolean. So that's all with all the functions. So let's return quickly back to BlueJ. Comparison. Let's open this. Okay. So we have over here our class, and over here we have string 1 containing the letter A and string 2 containing the letter B. Of course, if we wanted to just print out whether the comparison, we use the dot equals function. So we do stir1 dot equals, remember, end it with an S, and we put the other string, and this should return false. Yes, exactly as I said, it returns false. But what if we were to just use equal to? Because I mean, it just compiles completely fine, right? And if we were to put letter A over here, oh, so it comes out true. So then what's the point of this? Well, there is a reason creating the string. So if you were to compile this, as I told before, this, I had said previously that this is equivalent to this. But is that really so? Let's just check using the output, and suddenly we're getting false. But why are we getting false? It shouldn't make sense. Well, the main reason we're getting false is because what the double equal to operator does when checking two different strings is it checks if these two objects are the same. So of course, if you were to just put it without the new operator, these two are technically the same because they're both referring to a string containing one character, which is capital A. But if you were to use a new operator, what we are doing is we're creating a completely different object. And since these two are two different objects, it will return false. So what this does, it checks if the object to which this particular variable is pointing to is the same. Of course, but when we use it on regular data types, it just checks the value. But since a string is an object, it cannot do that. So it checks the location of the object. So instead, if you were to use the dot equals str1 dot equals str2, we want to check this. Yes, suddenly it returns true. So always, if you want to compare two different strings and you want to not compare the object, but you want to compare what is contained within the string, you always use the dot equals function. And this is extremely important because there might be some cases where you accidentally create an object or you have to create an object of a string and you want to compare if one string is equal to the other string. So without the dot equals function, you would have to create your own function which checks each character one by one and returns true at the end. So a benefit of the string function would be just helping you to quickly do some simple tasks, like for example comparing two strings. What if this was the letter small a? Then, and if we wanted to compare these two strings using ignoring the case of the letters, well, we just do equals ignore case, and now it will come out as true. Without ignore case, it would come out as false, because just remember that Java is case sensitive in almost every matter. So of course we need to specify that we want to ignore the case. Okay, now let's put another string. This is a string. Suppose we wanted to check if it starts with a particular letter. Suppose we want to say does it start with the letter T, and capital T to be specific. So what we do is str1 dot starts with, and then we put whatever string it is. So since we're only checking the first letter, we put the first letter over here. And if it comes true, yes, it comes true. But what if we wanted to check multiple characters? What if we wanted to say that does it start with this, starting with a capital letter? Well, of course, starts with can also do that. So if we were to run it, we would get true. However, just remember case sensitivity. Over here, starts with does not have an ignore case sort of function, meaning that if you were to put a small t, it would return false. Which is why it's quite important to always remember that Java is case sensitive. But what if we wanted to find out whether the is exists within the string, and we wanted to check whether if it exists at some point within the string? Well, of course, we need to use a for loop. This is a small program. We want to check if is exists within the string, or is for that matter. So we can just do for in I equals 0. I is less than, just remember less than the string length. And we're using another function over here. And then we increment I. Okay. Looks like that's an error. There you go. And we just have a boolean variable. So let me just create boolean. Boolean exists is equal to false. Now we check if str1 dot starts with, we put is, and then comma, of course the offset value, and we want to know whether it exists, is exists within the entire string. So if you were to do that, let's just do that. Exists is equal to true, and then we print what exists is. Now in theory this should print true, so let's just test it. And as you can see, it returned true, so it worked. We want to check if it ends with the letter E, for example. So we do string1 dot ends with, and we put a string over here. So E, as I said. Of course, one thing about ends with is that you can't offset from the end, which is kind of unfortunate, but alternatively, you could use a modified starts with function to sort of simulate offsetting from the end. And anyways, that is all that we have for part 1 of string functions. Thank you all for watching. If you like this video, please click that like button and subscribe if you want to see more of these videos. Thanks all for watching. I'll see you later in the next part. Goodbye.